In the meantime, as a way of preventing industrial action and loss of jobs, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, has advised oil companies to dialogue with their workers. The minister gave the advice at a meeting with oil and gas workers and their employers to resolve petitions from the workers' unions on various allegations. This joint meeting followed separate meetings held with the workers, the oil companies and their contractors on the crisis.
Prior to this meeting, the Labour Minister says he has held separate meetings with oil companies and their employees over petitions of mistreatments. According to him, some of the allegations against the oil companies include indiscriminate dismissal of Nigerian workers at the expense of expatriates.
We had the lodge of petitions from the unions themselves, complaining of so many anti-labor behaviors from the oil companies and their subcontractors, the labor contractors. These ranges from arbitrary disengagement of workers, outsourcing of jobs.
Some representatives of the oil companies say the current fall in the price of oil is making them take hard decisions to sustain their operations.
The current business environment of sustained low oil prices requires us to make tough and difficult decisions to sustain the business for the long term. Many of the projects that we have underway are uneconomic, so our activity level is declining, and we're having to make adjustments in the resourcing of our operations and our projects.
Meanwhile, the workers insist that the actions of the oil companies is not in harmony with what happens in other African countries.
The oil price drop did not only hit Nigeria alone. It's a global issue, and as such, and Nigeria is not the only country that is currently producing oil in Africa, even if we are the giant. Angola had the same issue, and other African countries, those countries are not experiencing the level of job losses that we're experiencing in Nigeria. And I bet the IOCs that are representing those IOCs here to affirm to that. And they should defend that. We have our facts.
Oil workers have threatened to go on strike if the issues raised in their petitions, including the alleged indiscriminate dismissal of workers, are not addressed.
The Department of Petroleum Resources in Kogi State has warned that it will no longer tolerate any marketeer who hoards, diverts and increases prices of petroleum products. State Controller of the DPR, Amos Jokodola, led a team of monitors around the state's East Senatorial District and sealed some breaching service stations. Commercial bank customers continue to express concern over what they describe as high bank charges. Our big story tonight examines the impact these charges have on customers and the reason these sums should be reduced or outrightly removed. Our correspondent Bolaji Akinwole reports.
A typical automated teller machine is surrounded by bank customers who wait patiently for their turn to withdraw their monies. The experience of holding your money should provide a sense of happiness. However, these customers say this is dampened by the charges that follow. 65 Naira is charged from every withdrawal. This is against the central bank's directive that the 65 Naira should be deducted on the fourth attempt at using another bank's ATM card.
After the third transaction on the bank, they will charge 65 Naira. But now, even on the first transaction, they will deduct your money. And even if you make transfers on the ATM, they will still charge you.
If you start to call somebody go to bank and it costs 65, even though you take 1 Naira, you charge 65. You check 2 guys, you charge 65. By the time you withdraw up to 1 Naira, you must have been exhausted.
Now, this is one of the various bank charges that customers say they face on a regular basis.
I mean, how much is our money? and they are charging all sorts. I'm really annoyed and I'm really angry.
In 2004, the Central Bank of Nigeria first provided a guide to bank charges, which is aimed at minimizing conflicts between the banks and their customers. In 2013, 9 years after, a revised guidelines was released by the Apex Bank, which is to serve as a regulation on applicable charges for banking services and products offered to customers. These include a 100 Naira annual debit card maintenance charge, phasing out of commission on turnover, no CO2 charged on returned outward clearing checks, and 65 Naira debit and fourth withdrawal when using another bank ATM card. Owing to the macroeconomic challenges, which is as a result of dwindling oil prices, operating the single treasury account, which financial analysts say have reduced the cash flow of banks, the Apex Bank introduced a maintenance fee of 1 Naira on current accounts for every 1,000 Naira transaction. As part of efforts to increase its revenue base, the government also introduced 50 Naira stamp duty for money received into bank accounts through e-transfer, cash and checks. Some banks released pre-earnings information to the shareholders, stating that they did not meet with previous year's profit levels. These have been identified as one of the reasons why the banks may be increasing the revenue channels.
It's a good way of generating revenue, but 50 Naira is too much. If they can reduce it, because they have a lot of customers, we're already paying tax. So if they can reduce it to at least something less than that, it will be good.
The Chairman, House Committee on Banking and Currency, Honorable Chukwudi Onyereri, expresses the committee's displeasure over these charges.
On one hand, you have said, yes, we've removed COT and everybody applauds you. And then you go back and then bring back the maintenance fee, which is like COT, 1 per meal. There's no difference whether you call it any name that you like. It's still the same thing, it's COT. So for us, we frowned at it and we called the Committee of Governors. I've made our position known and we said that for the interests of people that we represent, which is the generality of Nigerians, they should remove it.
Different opinions have been expressed in relation to charges made by banks, whether through the ATM or other bank transactions. But what has been very resounding is the need for the financial authorities to review these charges downward. Bolaji Akinwale for Channels Television News.
That's all from us in Abuja. Back to you in Lagos, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Yemisi. Our policymakers and business leaders have echoed the need to protect the Naira from foreign exchange pressure using a viable monetary policy regime. And those are the positions of key speakers at the Cable Online Newspaper Policy Dialogue, which held in Lagos today. However, economic players remain clearly divided on currency devaluation. Our business correspondent, Temple Ashaju, in this special report, highlights the arguments for and against devaluation.
Representative of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The national discourse surrounding one of the most debated topics in Nigeria today was the focus of the Cable Newspaper First Colloquium.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure.
The select discussants range from policymakers to business leaders and analysts as the host. The chief executive of the Cable newspaper, Mr. Simon Kolawole, states the rationale behind the gathering.
Everybody has his own role to play. There are people, all they want to do is complain, things are bad, and they have their own role to play. But there are also people who want to solve, to be part of the solution.
The keynote address is delivered by Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole. He emphasized his stance with the fiscal and monetary authorities on the exchange rate.
The president has said clearly, I will not join forces with those who want to kill the Naira. Where do I stand? I associate myself with the position of my commander-in-chief and of the president.
The views of the discussants, however, turned contrary on the central bank's exchange rate policies.
I think what we require is what we currently have. A president with clear determination to compel all of us to think again, to reiterate our consumption, and to reconcile it with current realities. Those who live on speculation We have no business supporting them.
I think that there's a perpetual downward slide that the currency must devalue. The central bank is not going to manufacture dollars. They can only manage the dollars that are within their purview. But a system, a policy, without a policy, you end up with nothing.
Their argument on the devaluation of the naira is also divergent, as Governor Oshiomhole asked the central bank to increase the list of prohibited items.
If devaluation was an answer, from 1 to 1, we didn't find the answer. From 1 to 8, we didn't find the answer. By 1999, from 1 to 100, we didn't find the answer. Soludo, with all due respect to him, told us he was going to peg the naira at 125 naira to the dollar. And he rolled out economic statistics to celebrate that. Some Nigerian job parties, some say, no, you can't do it by law. From that 125, we are now at 200. Nigeria has not been delivered.
Do something and have a policy, or do nothing. If you do nothing, what fella made in a song, and I'll quote here, the song called Palava, he said, tenant lost him job, him sit down for house, in the think of job, Mr. Landlord, come wake him up. He said, Mr. Pay me your rent. Waiting they find.
The central bank has always rejected propositions to devaluation of the naira. And at this forum, it was a no retreat, no surrender.
We have not built on our devaluations over time. Now is the time. Devaluation is sound economics. Sound economics. Please do not get me wrong. It is absolutely sound if the fundamentals are right. What we are simply saying is that now let us lay the foundations. Let us initiate development in such a way that when we devalue, there could be a rider, there could be a basis on which the economy can take off to higher heights.
Views differ on the historical records of currency devaluation in Nigeria. The resolve here, however, is simple. Domestic production and consumption are the solutions for a healthier and stronger naira.
Nigeria must rethink its national communications strategy if it must secure the buy-in of everyone in nation building. Those were the thoughts of communication experts as they converged on Lagos to compare notes on how to build a people whose values are founded on nationalism and patriotism. The forum also believes that our weakness as a country should not be exalted above our strengths.
No Nigerian leader has said, okay, from day one that I'm elected as president of this country, this is Nigeria of my dream. I'm going to get all Nigerians to see that vision with me. Because even if you may have a fantastic vision, if you don't get people to onboard that vision, to share it with you, and then begin to live that vision, it will die with you. That's why you find that in something from government to government, we've been jumping from like fry pan to fire, hopscotching over different ideologies, instead of creating the right kind of Nigerians. So my view is that in the first instance, we must articulate a clear perception of who the Nigerian is, or who we want to be, and then begin to build a structure that will deliver that ideology and deliver the values that we can communicate. Communication comes at the end of creating a good product, and that product will come from strong strategies that will deliver, the product.
We have one of the largest markets in the emerging economy in the world, that we are richly endowed, that we are talented. That's the reality. Of course, yes, we have challenges, but is there any country in the world that doesn't have challenges? The United States has challenges, yet it does not deter America from promoting America as God's gift to humanity.
The German trade delegation to Nigeria has indicated a strong desire to buy the country's liquefied natural gas. Vice Minister for Economic Affairs and Energy and member Mr. Uwe Beckmeyer, who led the delegation to the Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Pt.3, said the supply of LNG to Germany will boost the country's shipbuilding industry. For the Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Pt.3, the oil and gas industry is ready to embrace improved business relations with Germany. Let's get more now from business news. Here's Imana Amawe.
You first. First Bank.
Hello and welcome to Business News. Some of the monetary and currency policy actions of the Central Bank of Nigeria have started to yield results. According to the Director, Monetary Policy of the Central Bank, Moses Tule, some industries have resumed production and export of local products. In light of this development, Mr. Tule argues that Naira devaluation is a possibility, but not at this time.
Since June 2015, there are several factories now that were once warehouses. The warehouses have now been cleared, the factories have opened, and they are producing and exporting. We have seen trade data from other countries that shows that even the UK, the fourth quarter data from the trade data from the UK shows that there was a substantial drop in export of clothes. Where do you think that was coming from? That drop may have been actuated by the policies in Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been asked to strengthen its regulatory powers to ensure appropriate discipline of market operators found guilty of infractions. The Oba of Lagos, Oba Rilwan Akiolu, was speaking on Wednesday when he received the management of the Securities Commission during the SEC's investor relations campaign on the new electronic dividend system. Oba Akiolu says the deployment of the system is timely, as Nigerians with investments in the stock market have suffered years of no return due to the complex nature of dividend repatriation. Meanwhile, the head of the commission, Muniru Gwazo, believes the new e-dividend is a major game changer, which will resolve some of the challenges plaguing the Nigerian market since its inception. And marking its fourth consecutive day of gains, the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed Thursday's session 2.19% higher. Bisi Adebayo tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Markets Reports. The Nigerian equities market remained bullish for a fourth consecutive session as the key broad index appreciated by over 2% to end Thursday's session at 24,664.89. Market capitalization also grew to 8.48 trillion naira. Integrated energy provider Forte Oil led the day's price gainers with an 8.67% increase. Dangote Cement also made the list with 6.63%, while Nigerian breweries closed 1.02% higher. Watco was the top most price loser with 2.56%. GlaxoSmithKline and Cornell also lost 5% and 4.73% respectively. On the top trades chart, Wema Bank recorded the highest volume of shares with over 200 million units. It was followed by Guarantee Trust Bank and Zenith Bank. At the end of the session, investors had exchanged 414.34 million shares, valued at 3.29 billion naira, in 3,380 deals. That ends the stock market reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Well, save Nigeria's local bourse, most of the major stocks across the globe closed in red. As bearish sentiments had today, let's see how these figures fared exactly. Well, that will be it on Business News tonight. Thank you for the company. I'm Imana Amawa. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
You first. First Bank.
Still ahead of the news at 10, NFF insists no technical committee member has resigned over Coach Sunday Olisa's controversial statement. More in sports news. Please stay with us.